things just happen, you know. They're all things that I care about a lot, and the partnership with RiverArts, I've always been a supporter of RiverArts, and I always wish I could be more active in what they do. So being able to curate this show, which is about the river, kind of was a natural fit. And I wanted to see if we could do a show that wasn't just about pretty pictures of the river. The river to me is so much more than something scenic behind your house or someplace you put your boat. It's really something that it's an entity unto itself, and a spirituality that deserves to be respected. So this show at RiverArts is a call to artists to try to come up with a way to express their feelings about the river and their relationship with the river in a more maybe abstract, but maybe slightly different point of view. Don't look for the pretty picture, look for something below the surface. And so, you know, seeing the world as a metaphor of my work, in my work, the paintings all usually exhibit some kind of mood or some kind of feeling of connectedness to something. And what am I trying to convey? I'm not trying to match your couch or your living room. I'm not trying to, I don't know, make something look real. I'm just trying to find out what I'm feeling at the time. And most of them have some kind of mood behind them. This one, for example, is called Borderline. And the borderline is the way the painting is kind of divided in half diagonally. And on this side, you can see the bottom. But on this side, you hit reflection of the sky. And it's the interaction of those two planes on a two-dimensional surface that is so interesting to me, because you'll be going along in your life, and this is again the metaphor. You go along in your life and you think you know where you see it, the obstacles, you see the stuff underneath on the side of the road, and you see the stuff in the sky, and then all of a sudden you don't see anything, or you don't understand anything. And that's when, you know, when things happen to you that they don't fit the program. You don't expect things to happen, and they always do.
So behind us are a bunch of Washington College kids,
yeah.
Looking at your art and also connecting the dots with writing and poetry. I mean, how does that make you feel? I mean, was it?
I love it.
Yeah,
I think it's great. I mean, I wish I were I think I'm a visual poet. A painter is always a form of a visual poet. Yes. But we are, well, just listening to Meredith talking to these kids, she's using language that I think in when I'm painting. You know, contrast, color, movement, all the things that are the language of poetry are also, to me, the language of painting. We, for 20 years, we have had a Chester program where we have these wonderful, about 50 wonderful volunteers that go out into the river in all the tributaries. They go upstream, they measure the water, they measure the oxygen content, the nitrogen and phosphorus content, and the sediment, and the temperature, and it's a very complex, takes about 2 hours, because I used to do it with Mary Lee, and it's a real dedicated bunch of guys, because you can't just say, well, I'm not doing it this month. And they get us data, and the data that we have shows that most of the issues that we face in the Chester River come from the tributaries. It's not coming up from the mouth of the river, so whatever happens at Conowingo, it's bad. It's bad for the Northern Bay, and it's bad for Rock Hall in the mouth of the river. But it's not bad for the rest of the river because of the way the river is shaped. When you have a river that's shaped like a pipe, and the pollution is coming down this way, it's not going to go all the way up here. So, of course, the dam has to be dealt with, and across the world, especially in this country, communities are taking down dams because they're no longer productive, they're ancient, and they're crumbling, they don't want to pay to have them fixed. Some dams, you know, this was a hydroelectric dam, so it does have a function, but they're rethinking the whole idea of managing water like this. That dam has served its purpose and kept a lot of sediment out of the bay for a long time, but now it's failing, so what do? You know, I think we have to do a cleanup. It has to be a joint effort with the state and the federal government and Pennsylvania, and, you know, everybody has to help to you know, we've all contributed to it. It's not like the, you know, Exelon has made all this problem. We all use electricity. We all use septic tanks or sewage treatment plants. We all eat the food that the farmers grow. So again, it's all connected. But I think we can't take our eye off the ball with our own river. That, you know, the farmers are on board. Most of them are doing the best they can. It's tough because agriculture is a big contributor to water quality problems. But I don't think we can stop. I think we have to just keep pushing and pushing, and that's a hard thing because people just get really sick of talking. I was talking to you at cocktail parties about, you know, sewage and runoff. Ask me about septic tanks, please.
I'll be in. So you've been at it a long time.
Yes, I have.
I mean, are you encouraged? I mean, is it something that you feel in our lifetime you'll see?
I don't know about our lifetime. I think they are seeing changes. One of the, and not to get too much into the weeds on this, but there's the thing that they're calling now legacy pollution. And when in the 50s and 60s, when petroleum was really cheap, and by extension fertilizer was really cheap, and the U.S. government came in with a lot of subsidies for corn, the farmers all went bonkers and planted tons and tons of corn. Well, corn uses up a lot of nitrogen, and nitrogen is a big, too much of anything, even, you know, a good thing is bad. So the over-application of nitrogen, and then if you had a drought, you put a lot of nitrogen on and nothing gets sucked up by the plants, it all goes down. Well, it doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear, and it doesn't go into the mantle of the earth. It goes into the groundwater, and then that migrates all the way out to whatever is the closest body of water. Well, that can take 30 years. So what they're starting to see now is the curve of pollution coming into the river is starting to bend. In other words, what they started doing 30 years ago in the late 80s is now starting to affect the water at this end of the spectrum. And it's the same thing with the sediment. It's legacy sediment because it's stuff that was coming down when they weren't putting on cover crops, when they weren't planting buffers, when they were farming right down to the water line. And hardly anybody does that anymore. So I see improvements, but we won't see the grasses come back for a long, long time. And we won't see, because I don't know if they'll root in the sediment. It's so thick. But I do think we'll see improvements in water quality, and I don't know how it's going to manifest. I'm not a scientist, so I can't claim to know what happens. But I do think that I don't care whether it is measurable in my lifetime, because I think it's an obligation we have to our kids and our grandchildren, and that eventually it will happen, and we may not see it. But I don't do it for that. I don't do it so that I feel better. I do it so that they'll have something here for their families.
What about